The ortur Laser Master 3 is a desktop diode laser that not only packs a punch with its 10 watts of power, but it is a sleek looking laser. It is the sleekest desktop laser that I think is on the market right now. This laser comes with some very rare features, such as an emergency stop switch that you would be lucky to find on a laser that is double the price. On paper, the ortur Laser Master 3 is an exceptional value at $750 US, but the question is it actually worth your hard-earned cash? When I received the laser, I was struck by the compact size of the box and inside the box the 4 pre-assembled pre-wired frame pieces. But when I began assembly, I quickly noticed that the instructions clearly outlined the necessary steps, but upon further assembly, I noticed that they didn't provide clear guidance as to how to execute those steps. Consequently, it took me over 2 hours to assemble these 4 frame pieces. Unfortunately, after I fully assembled my laser, I noticed that part of the motion system was incorrectly installed in the factory, and that would have led my laser to not function properly. Despite the assembly issues that I had, this laser is remarkably sturdy, and it is without a doubt the nicest looking laser of this category that you will find on the internet today. This machine includes an air assist tube routing system for the laser, but it does not include an air pump. Now, you can buy the air pump directly from ortur for $80, or you might be able to find the Laser Master 3 paired with the air pump for a cheaper price. Depending on your needs and without significant modifications, this laser is going to be very complicated and prove a challenging task to install a third-party laser or any third-party accessories. The laser itself rides on a rail with a thumb screw in order for you to loosen the thumb screw to raise the laser depending on the material you're cutting. Now, the cable that leads to the actual laser head rides along the X-axis gantry, and it is not incredibly aesthetically pleasing, but more important than that, depending on the speed in which the head is moving or the way that the head is moving, it could actually get caught on the laser mount, become unplugged, or maybe cause other damages. Now, I did not have issues with this, but I could see that the sheath on the wire could become damaged over time from rubbing against the mount and then eventually wear away. That could cause bare wires to be shown, which of course is dangerous, but it could also cause unknown malfunctions to the machine. Now, one thing that I think is incredible about this machine versus some of the other lasers I've had is on the back of the machine there is a quick swap switch that disables the Y-axis and allows you to plug in a rotary axis. This is incredibly convenient because in other machines that I've owned in the past, you would have to disassemble the machine, unplug the wire for the Y-axis, plug in the new wire for your rotary axis, and then when you're done with your rotary axis, do the whole thing in reverse. Now, another great thing about this machine that I haven't seen on very many other desktop lasers in this price category is Wi-Fi connectivity. Wi-Fi connectivity is incredibly useful on a laser because typically you have the laser in a location like the garage or some other ventilated area that is not convenient to your desktop. And of course, most lasers require you to be hardwired directly to the computer, which means you have to have a laptop. I will say in my use with this laser, I did not use the SD card. I did not hardwire my jobs. I only used the Wi-Fi connectivity, and I sent every job from Lightburn. I had almost no issues. However, there was one print job that about 5 minutes in, the laser claimed to have become disconnected. The laser was turned on. It didn't seem to be disconnected. It just stopped mid-job. And as I previously mentioned, the laser head has a thumb screw which allows you to loosen it and then raise or lower the laser itself depending on the thickness of the material you're intending to engrave or cut. This is particularly useful because not every material that you're going to be operating on is the same thickness. Of course, there is an issue that I came across in terms of material size, and that is the size of the feet on this laser. If you have a material that doesn't fit within the bounds of the laser and its Z height is just a little too big, it simply won't fit, even if you could raise the laser height itself tall enough to focus the laser. And that is because the height of the feet are just simply too small. And finally, my favorite feature about this entire laser is the little flip adapter that is attached to the laser head. The flip adapter attached to the laser head tells you exactly the height in which you need to position your material so that the laser is focused. On other lasers that I've had to go through hoops and bounds in order to get the laser itself focused for burning. With this simple attachment, you flip it out, unscrew the thumb screw, move the laser up or down depending on what you need to do, and then tighten the thumb screw and your laser is focused within a matter of seconds. Now I want to briefly touch on some of the safety features that you'll find on the Laser Master 3. Two of the standout features that set the Laser Master 3 aside from the rest of the lasers on the market are going to be the emergency stop switch and the key start. This machine is equipped with an emergency stop switch that is pre-installed. That is a rare inclusion in this market, and other competitors that even offer a stop switch are going to charge upwards of $60. In my opinion, safety is invaluable, and ortur's decision to include this pre-installed on the Laser Master 3 is very commendable. Now the other safety feature is going to be the basic key, which enables the laser to be turned on or turned off. The key is intended to prevent unauthorized use from either children or pets from accidentally turning the laser on. However, the key that was chosen was subpar quality. In a perfect world, yes, the key is going to function perfectly. However, if you turn the key to the on position and then you pull the key out, there's no lock preventing the key from being removed. That means the key is still in the on position, but there's no key in the ignition. So of course, when you turn the laser off and then you walk away and go do your other business, you don't realize that the laser is still in an enabled state. If this video has been helpful at all to you so far, or has provided you any value in terms of entertainment or in terms of knowledge, I would greatly appreciate it if you would drop a like and a subscription to the channel, because subscribers like you are what keep this channel running. Videos like this do not come very easy. They come with many hours of testing and filming and editing. And while I enjoy all of it, some support to the channel definitely helps me continue, and it helps the motivation. Now the Laser Master 3 offers a unique ring LED that changes between every color of the rainbow, as well as a buzzer that provides a series of beeps in order to tell you what modes and states the laser is in. However, there are far too many states that the laser can be in. It can be in an error state, it can be in a homing state, it can be in an inoperable state, it could be in a state where the key is not in. There are far too many states for you to ever remember. Thankfully, ortur has provided a very nice little table and chart that tells you what state the laser is in depending on the series of beeps and the colors of the LED. I had to use this table during my testing multiple times, and it was very easy to look up what the state of the machine was in. Now my laser did not come pre-installed with the latest firmware, and I assume yours won't as well. In my testing, it's best to just get the laser in, go to ortur's website, download the latest firmware, and install the latest firmware. Now there are two ways to upgrade the firmware. I will touch on one of them later in this video. The user has to go through a complicated series of button clicks, whereas you click the power button for so many seconds, then you click the reset button for so many seconds, unclick the reset button, then unclick the power button. Oh, and you have to have the laser connected to the computer. And if you've done everything correctly, the computer will recognize your laser as a USB storage device, in which you can now drag and move a copy of the new firmware bin file over to the laser. After it's done being copied, the laser is going to automatically turn off. When the laser turns back on, fingers crossed, theoretically, you will have the installed firmware that you drug over. Now that Y-axis switch that changes from a rotary unit to the included standard Cartesian Y-axis, that switch doesn't seem to work as you would think. Now to me, it is unclear whether this is a user error or simply an issue with the laser. Maybe it's an issue with light burn. I really have no idea. The issue I'm experiencing is when I have the switch in one position, I'll perform a homing maneuver and the laser will not move in the Y-axis. But then if I try to perform a cutting maneuver, the laser moves in the Y-axis. Now, of course, this laser has the Wi-Fi functionality, which is absolutely incredible, but it is not so straightforward to use. Because this laser doesn't actually have a screen, you can't navigate on the screen to a section where you would input your Wi-Fi SSID and password. So the way you connect the laser to the Wi-Fi is once again connecting it via USB to a computer, going into the serial command line, and then executing a series of complicated commands. You would first type in the serial command and then type the SSID and hit the enter key. You would then do the exact same thing, but for the password, and of course the command that you send is going to be slightly different. This is not something that would typically be worthy of bringing up in a review video. However, every single time that you upgrade the firmware on this laser, it completely forgets everything. That means if you upgrade the firmware, every single time you have to go and send these commands again. I can't complain too much because this is one of the only lasers in this price category that actually has Wi-Fi connectivity, so it's kind of a win in my book either way. Now, Geekbuying reached out to me and asked if I wanted to do a review on this laser, and of course I said yes. The laser looked incredible, and so thank you Geekbuying to sending this laser out to me. If you're like me and you've never heard of Geekbuying before this video, they're like Alibaba or AliExpress, where you can frequently find products at a significantly reduced price. Even if you don't buy anything, I recommend you going and checking them out. This way you can see what they have to offer. Now, one of the most compelling reasons to buy this laser is going to be the app support that goes along with it. This laser comes complimentary with a free application that you can either download from the Android App Store or the iTunes Store. There's a whole plethora of functionality once you get your laser connected to the application. One of those things is actually moving the laser itself forward and backwards with 0.1 millimeters up to 50 millimeter increments. Another thing that you can do is perform some fundamental tasks such as turning the laser on to see it operate. You can home the laser and just other basic stuff like that. One perplexing thing with this application is that it allows you to do certain things that the laser itself physically cannot do. One of those things is moving the Z-axis. Of course, this laser doesn't have an automatic Z-axis, so this is something that ortur should most likely disable from the app and hide from the user. Now, the app offers some basic cutting and engraving options, such as engraving and cutting text, engraving and cutting barcodes, QR codes. You can create a picture from your photo album, and then you can burn that onto an object. And one of the most exciting features of the entire application is that you can create a custom puzzle with as many rows and as many columns as you would like, and then you can also take a photo from your photo album and you can overlay that onto the puzzle, and you can have a custom puzzle of whatever photograph you want. Now, once you select any of the options I just mentioned, you can go into a configuration mode where you can select the material you're engraving, you can change the power, the speed, pretty much every option that you would have within Lightburn or Laser Gerbil you would have in this application. Now, despite the promising functionality of this application, I encountered a host of problems getting the application to actually work. And I encountered, unfortunately, so many problems that I didn't actually get to test the functionality of the application. To me, this is incredibly disappointing because the app is one of the most significant selling points of the entire laser. With enough trial and error, I am confident that I could get the application to work with the laser. But it is also evident that I had enough issues with this application that there are bugs that need to be fixed. And with that, I will say ortur does have a lot of updates for the firmware on this machine. You can check out their website. They didn't just produce this machine and then forget about it. They have done regular updates, and I think with enough nagging, ortur might pick the app back up, add some bug fixes to it, and make it functional. Now, before I show you my laser creations, I want to be fully transparent with you that the creations that I've made are not visually appealing. However, the purpose of this segment is to show you the materials I worked with and the things that I did in order to help you contextualize the information I've previously discussed. My aim is to provide a genuine portrayal of my experience with this machine rather than simply promoting it. And one final thing about all of these items that I've created: The intricate relationship between speed and power of any laser is very, very complicated, and so I didn't write down the speed or the power that I used for all of these creations, and that is because most likely if you get this machine, you're going to be using different materials than me, so all of your settings are going to be completely different. So the very first thing that I burned was the logo for my channel onto this piece of hardwood. This hardwood was cut with a chainsaw and I just stuck it into my table saw to square off the edges. Now, I hadn't used this laser before. I just turned it on, guessed the power, guessed the speed, hit the go button, and it's a little bit weak in terms of its color, but I do think it turned out pretty good. After I did that piece, I burned another piece with my logo, and this time I burned my circular logo. I changed the power a little bit. This was a different piece of wood, but it was the same kind of hardwood, so I just increased the power slightly and I got a darker burn. Now, the next thing that I tried to do was cut out a hole inside a thick piece of LVP. Now, here on the left, there is a speed power grid that did not come from this laser. That's something else that I was testing. But over here on the right, you can see that I have some circles cut. Now, the lighter circle was with a lower power, and I realized that wasn't going to work at all, so I stopped the machine and I turned it on a higher power and a slower speed, and then I started cutting again. I believe this was 10 passes at whatever speed and power I chose, and it did make a little bit of an impact on the actual LVP. However, it's very clear that if I did actually want to cut all the way through this, it was going to take a much longer time. So after I did those tests, I realized I didn't even try and cut a piece of cardboard. So I went back and I changed the speed to a very low speed, the power to a very high power, and I tried to cut some cardboard. In just 4 passes, I was able to cut through 3 thickness of this cardboard right here. After that, I wanted to see if I could etch some concrete, so I took this big 16 by 16 paver, put it at 100% power, and I just went to work. Now, I don't actually know how much I etched this concrete paver or how much I simply just cleaned the layer of dirt off the top of it, but it was able to do something with it. Another thing that I wanted to do with this laser was make a panel portrait, so I took 4 pieces of wood, I cut them down to the right length, I laid the pieces out flatly, dropping everything, and then I burned the image in. Now, I burned this a little bit too dark, so unfortunately it didn't turn out as well as I wanted to after I waited 6 hours, but it is cool and it does prove a concept that if I lower my power or raise my speed, I should be able to do this project no problem. Another test that I wanted to do was burn paint on a canvas. So the first thing that I did was I put a layer of green down on this canvas and then I put some layers of white on top of it. Now, I really had no idea what I was doing, so I initially put the laser at an incredibly high speed and a very low power. I didn't think it was going to take a lot to burn this paint away. Clearly, I was wrong. This was the 3rd attempt and I decided to be done at this point because I could have increased the power even more and lowered the speed even more, but eventually I was going to burn through the canvas and I didn't want to totally damage it. Now, overall, I do really like this laser, and one of the biggest things for me personally is simply the way it looks. As I've said in many of my other videos, the aesthetics are very important to me. I don't want to walk into a printing room with ugly printers. I don't want to walk into my garage and see an ugly laser. So the aesthetics are very important. In terms of power and capability, I'm not someone that you really should be asking in terms of what capability can this laser really provide you. In terms of my assessment of the functionality and the features of this laser, I am very impressed with the things that it has as compared to the previous laser that I had. There are definitely some things that this laser is lacking, and then there are some things that in my opinion must be fixed. The biggest thing for me is the app support. The app support is incredible, and the app support makes this laser open and functional for pretty much anyone. I am very disappointed that the app doesn't work or that it doesn't work well. Overall, it has been a very pleasant experience with this laser. I just need to get some more time on my belt in order to actually become familiar with its characteristics. Like I said, I'm very happy with this laser, but if it is worth it to you is only going to be up to you to decide.